Hi, I'm AJ, and the good news is Jeremy's in recovery. The bad news is he's really busy today. Alright, what's going on is what's usually keeping Jeremy busy on Tuesdays and Thursdays is happening today as well, and possibly Thursday as well. It's just kind of been going to be a crazy week. Either way, he is almost definitely, positively going to be here on Wednesday. Maybe. Alright, our first story of the day. The Supreme Court opened today with their latest session and has decided to hear arguments on limiting lawsuits. Now, what we're really talking about here is companies that disobeyed or broke laws in other countries, should they really be tried here in the U.S.? And we've seen a lot of problems with this, like with Gibson guitars being sued for breaking the law in India, even though India eventually came out and said they didn't break it. Gibson was still sued by the United States government as kind of a political move. So the Supreme Court is hearing these cases and saying, okay, should we really be trying these in the United States? I mean, they broke another country's laws. Should we be imposing our laws in other countries? My answer, no. All right, switching over to the UN, a little bit of political news. I'm going to giggle a little bit through this, I think. Anyway, last week we talked about certain world leaders talking to the UN, including ours, and, had the response from the people in the Middle East, particularly Ahmadinejad, as we call him around here. Well, he of course was really anti-American and just really trying to push the Islam Sharia law out there. And then, well, this has all just been kind of put to nothing because his photographer, who accompanied him from Iran, defected while he was in the UN, and he just kind of left and called for asylum in the United States. So, yeah, that's a thing. Country of peace, my... excuse me. And now switching over to Egypt, where we're getting more kind of news. Now, we've talked a lot about the Egyptian president, how he's pushing for non-freedom of speech and all of that, and we're just seeing all this kind of weird stuff. Well, even worse, a sheik is calling for girls to be able to be married at 14 years old, like legally married at 14, simply because, well, that's what his religion believes, or so he says. Now, this is not just some extreme sheik on the edge of things. This is actually one of the main ones that is helping to form their new constitution. That's how scary this is. They are basically pushing for pedophilia to be legal simply because of some weird notion that it should be. I don't know. Weird. Ugh. Continuing on the weird a bit, President Obama has come out recently and signed an executive order to fight human trafficking, and has said that child soldiers are slaves and this is all bad and everything, and he's putting out such good words, and I want to applaud him for it, except the fact that he has waived almost all U.S. sanctions that would punish countries that have child soldiers. So really, this is... It's coming down to what I always say he's been doing. He says things that really get you going and really connect with you and like, this is right, this is good. And then he does the complete opposite, which means he's doing bad things. We need a new president. Do your research. I'm going to switch over to Germany, though, because, well, Deutsch is gut sometimes. This time, not so much. If you didn't know, over in Europe, churches, in a lot of countries, in Europe anyway, there are a lot of churches that actually get what's called a state church tax. Basically, the state collects taxes for the church, whatever church you subscribe to, and then gives that money directly to the church. It's tithing through the church. It's weird. Anyway, German churches have actually stepped forward and are now saying, because there is such a problem right now, that you don't pay your tax, you don't get blessings. This is getting a little weird now for me, simply because, well, this is combining money and church. Sure, churches need money to run, but refusing blessings for not paying money? Someone needs to teach them the definition of the word mammon. Okay, I'm going to switch to internet news, because internet news has got to be good, right? Well, this is actually kind of a throwback to a while ago when we talked about the World Health Organization and the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the world's book of mental problems. Well, they've decided to add a little bit to it. Again, we've talked a little bit about this before. Well, they're adding internet addiction to be classified as a mental illness. Now, to an extent, I can see this simply because, you get the people that starve themselves to death playing, MMOs and all of that. But at the same time, what are the limits of this going to be? I mean, if you spend too much on the time on the internet, you could be classified as mentally ill. I spend a good time on the internet simply because that's kind of my job here right now. That's what I do. And limiting access to the internet is not going to be a good thing, so we got to look closer at this, see how it goes. And for our last story of the day, I'm going to end on smallpox and breast cancer because it's a lot better than it sounds. Well, it turns out the deadly virus known colloquially as smallpox could actually be a treatment for some forms of breast cancer. Now, this kind of hits home for me. I know a few people have gone through breast cancer, and it's not fun to see, and just the amount of pain and mental suffering that they go through, not fun. So if we could actually find a vaccine, it turns out a smallpox vaccine may actually be able to treat and cure breast cancer. It has been tested on mice and works so far. So who knew? Deadly virus could be the cure to another deadly disease, or it could just be, you know, the plot to the next, you know, virus outbreak movie. Ooh. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us on Extraordinary Times. Like if you liked it over there. Favorite there. Subscribe up there if you're watching on YouTube. Please watch on YouTube. Share us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, whatever. And always, be aware.